Hi, I'm Rael Coping, a registered dietitian. Welcome to the Harmony Eating and Lifestyle Program. Harmony is an addictions clinic which offers a unique treatment program for people with carbohydrate addiction. I'm going to talk you through a short presentation, just introducing you to the paradigm by which we live. It's easy to understand in the context of our evolutionary progression that we have evolved as a species over millions and millions of years. Modern lifestyle as we know it is really very short in terms of our evolutionary development and only spans the most recent 10,000 years. A very notable development in the way that we eat over that period of time has been the spread of modern agriculture. It started about 11,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, spread quickly to China, the Americas, and North America as recently as 4,000 years ago. The spread of agriculture through Africa happened at a similar time, roughly 5,000 years ago, which in biblical terms was just after the time of Noah. In other words, it's still within our documented record. The implications of our diet are maybe easily imagined when we look at an original hunter-gatherer type society. A hunter-gatherer would have had a diet comprising of foods which are readily available. We can imagine there would be an abundance of nuts and seeds, some animal products when available, and some fresh vegetables and some fruit. With the advent of modern agriculture, a whole new element has been added to our normal dietary regimen, and that comprises really the starches, grains, and cereals. Let's understand what that's done in terms of the way we were designed and evolved to develop, and the way our bodies now have to manage the amount of food and the kinds of foods which we're eating. Coming back to our hunter-gatherer, for any of us, taking food for energy at discrete intervals during our meal times. Our bodies, though, have to make that food available at regular or continuously throughout the day, depending on what our activity levels are. So looking at the body purely as a warehouse for food, vegetables and fruits have the energy source largely in the form of carbohydrates. Within a few minutes of having eaten that carbohydrate, no matter its source, it will be converted to glucose and stored as glycogen, either in the liver or in the muscle tissue. Your body's total storage capacity for sugar is maybe 2 cups of sugar in total. Protein foods are not easy to transport around the body, but because so much of our body is made out of protein, our muscles, our organs, etc., we've got a very large storage capacity for protein. Fats are very easy to digest, very easy to store, and very efficient to carry. So our bodies have got a very large capacity to digest and assimilate fats. So if we look at our hunter-gatherer purely as a warehouse, what we find in fact is we have the largest storage capacity for fats, 125 million calories. This is an average person. Roughly 40 million calories of protein and very little, meaning 2 million calories of carbohydrates. If we look at our food pyramid compared to our storage pyramid, we find that they are in fact inverse of each other. Because the body has got such a limited storage capacity for carbohydrate, many systems are geared towards removing carbohydrate from the bloodstream, and when our carbohydrate capacity becomes exhausted, converting those foods into other forms. So if we look at the modern food pyramid, which includes an abundance of the breads, the cereals, and the grains, and in fact this is what our modern guidelines are telling us we should be eating, more and more of foods from that category, they will still get digested and sent through to the liver. And when the body tries to put that volume of food into its existing storage capacity, there may be an overflow, which has implications for other compartments inside the body. The way that these physiological pathways work is the body can either digest and store foods in an anabolic process, or the converse, it can mobilize and burn foods in a catabolic process. The body can go either way, but usually only one direction at a time. In other words, it's very much like a stop-go system on the road. When the stop system is running and the storage process is going on, the body will digest and assimilate the nutrients, carbohydrates specifically, And as we've said, when that capacity is exhausted, those carbohydrates will be converted to and stored as fats. By contrast, when the go system is on, that process will be reversed. What determines when the body is in stop or go mode is the prevailing hormonal profile. So your hormones that are floating around in your body will switch the various machinery, the enzymes on, to either be in a stop-go or in a go mode. The main hormone which is responsible for switching on the stop mode, the storage mode in the body, is called insulin. When your insulin levels are high, your body will preferably store nutrients as opposed to mobilizing these nutrients. In terms of the modern diet, there are people who can manage the high volumes of carbohydrate that we're told to eat, but there is a proportion of people who can't handle that huge volume and their bodies are stuck in this permanent stop mode. The insulin levels are permanently high in a medical condition called hyperinsulinemia. Who are these people? Roughly 30% of the world population is overweight. 30% of the world suffers from metabolic syndrome, which is a cluster of symptoms including overweight, dyslipidemia, in other words, poor blood fat profiles, dysglycemia, an inability to regulate blood sugar levels, high triglycerides, which are specific species of fat which are produced when one eats too much carbohydrate, and high blood pressure. If you have 3 of those 5 symptoms, you have metabolic syndrome. It's affecting a huge part of the world population. The Harmony Addictions program has its origins in a request from diagnosed food addicts, specifically bulimics, who are in remission, people who have been through the whole treatment process and are finding that they are able to regulate their weight and regulate their lives, and yet still feel that carbohydrate foods are trigger foods for them. And they approached us and said, is it not possible to still have a healthy diet in which we're able to avoid these kinds of foods completely? And of course the answer is yes, you can do it. A lot of research has been done in terms of the addictive properties of carbohydrate foods. This kind of research is done inter alia with things called FPET scans, functional PET scans, in which a person is stuck in a scanning machine, a scan is taken under a neutral environment, the person is then challenged. So if it's an alcoholic, they may get some alcohol. If it's a drug addict, they will get their substance of choice, and they are rescanned. The 2 pictures are then laid over each other, and you can see from that which areas of the brain are becoming specifically excited in this addictive process. And you do get very specific characteristics for different addictions, such as gambling, cocaine addiction, alcohol addiction, etc. Now, the same type of methodology was used in assessing people with a carbohydrate addiction, and in fact, you get exactly the same scan profile which comes out for people with dopamine addiction. So substance addiction on a brain level has the same pattern of recruitment as a carbohydrate addiction. In this program, we treat carbohydrate addiction in the same way as we would substance addiction. We don't ask an alcoholic to have 1 or 2 drinks of beer a day, nor do we ask a coke addict to have 1 line of coke a day. It's an abstinence program, and I'm hoping if you're not a carb addict yourself, that you will respect that those people on the program with you are carb addicts and will have the same relationship with that addiction as you may have with your addiction. When does use become abuse? To emphasize, this is not an anti-carb program. Different people have got different tolerance levels for carbohydrate. I'm going to read this quote from the World Health Technical Report series. It's necessary to make the distinction between the abuse of a psychoactive substance, which tends to result in the deterioration of an individual's physical, psychological, and social functioning, and its therapeutic use, which is intended to help any or all of these. So there are levels at which carbohydrate for certain people is going to become an abusive substance, and there are levels at which it will become a healthy substance. In terms of the diet that we're following here in this clinic, we're taken on a 60-gram carbohydrate diet. What that means is a diet which is very, very high in vegetables. In fact, most of your meals you will have a large vegetable portion. It does permit a little bit of fruit and the occasional inclusion of certain root vegetables such as pumpkin and butternut. It might be an adaptation initially. People often claim that on a low-carb diet you don't get enough roughage and fiber. I think you'll quickly learn that quite the opposite is true, and we usually see people adapting over the first 3 to 4 days and in fact thriving on this eating program. So I welcome you to the program, and I hope that you enjoy your low carbohydrate diet during this day.